Hello, my name is Murat Menguc. I'm with the Cultivate, and I'm an artist, writer, and a historian. And today I will give you a small introduction to art and science collaborations throughout the history. Okay, so if we do a web search on art and science collaborations, we mostly come across examples of art helping science visualize distinct scientific phenomena or information. In many cases, though, art is something that decorates science books, including social sciences. For that later sentence, I decided to use an example by a late friend of mine, Jesse Lopez, who died due to complications from COVID. And here he is depicting a bat upside down in the contents page of a book called Arts of Living on a Damaged Planet, Ghosts of the Anthropocene. And the most popular and familiar examples of the sort are artistic drawings made for specific scientific essays, books, and encyclopedias, produced for the general consumption. But once in a while, we also encounter a purely scientific representation achieving an iconic art status of its own. For that, I wanted to use the middle image, Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures. This is the front cover image of Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures album. And it comes from the Cambridge Encyclopedia of Astronomy, and it represents the successive pulses from the first pulsar discovered ever, PSR B1919 plus 21. And there is literally no flea market you can go in the United States or around the world right now, and this print won't be on sale in t-shirt form. It is extremely popular, and the drawing itself is entirely scientific. It had nothing to do, it has zero artistic intentions, but yet today everyone knows the pulsar. Even the name of the pulsar is usually the one that is taken from the Joy Division album cover print. And on the right, I just wanted to give you one more example of what happens when artists give a hand to a emerging scientific fields. It's a plate from Alberto Seba's Cabinet of Curiosities. This is just like another naturalist masterpiece from 18th century, and it has fantastic drawings by artists trying to explain, in this case, I believe the moths. This being said, there are hybrid exchanges between art and science as well, and examples of how legendary art like Picasso's work, for example, may inspire scientists to do things in a new and different fashion. There's a website by EMBO Press, which I strongly suggest you visit. It outlines the history of art and science collaboration. It gives unique examples where scientists imitate, in which scientists imitate the progress, imitate art. And in this one example, a scientific inspiration comes from Pablo Picasso's lithographs. It parallels between the parallels between progressive abstractions of Picasso's lithographs and of bulls, and understanding the three-dimensional organization of 16 cells inside the Drosophila egg. This work is done by Jasmine Imran Al-Sous, and it is the winner of Autodesk Art and Biology Award of 2016. So here what we see is the scientist Al-Sous takes Picasso as her example and uses it to explain scientific phenomena in a different manner. It's a form of abstraction technique that she adapts from a well-known figure. I find this very, very intriguing and interesting. Another interesting example, of course, provided by EMBO Press belongs to Charles Minard. Now, I mean, as I said, I'm a historian, and Minard's map of Napoleon's war against Russia in 1812 is a fantastic example of data visualization at an extreme level, if we remember that it was made in 1869. This chart, a two-dimensional chart, covers multidimensional data, including temperatures, dates, location, directions, and the number of Napoleon's men. And if you look at it carefully, you will see that upon leaving Europe and marching into Moscow, Menard maps it and shows you exact locations where, how much more people were lost, and under what temperature conditions, which locations, which dates, and etc., etc. And you can see that upon return to France, on the black line coming back from Moscow to Europe, you will see that the number of the army completely dwindled into nothing compared to its original proportions. Sometimes we encounter a completely scientific drawing or a work achieving an art status. And for that, I wanted to use the hieroglyphics maps of ever shifting banks of the Mississippi River. Fisk mapped the Mississippi River's geological timeline and colored it in such a way, that you will see very high quality prints of this being made and hanged on walls of people in their houses as a decoration, as posters, because it is no longer considered a geological map. It is no longer considered a geological study, but it is considered a somewhat an art piece on its own. Most websites, if you look at them, and Wikipedia entries argue that Renaissance was the most important point, after which or during which art and science established fundamental ties with each other and started to really collaborate. They explain this as a consequence of the emergence of natural history as a field of study and the emergence of the encyclopedia as a new form of knowledge accumulation. But if you leave the Western canon behind and look at the rest of the world, you will find out that there are many early examples of art and science collaborations, especially in the Near East and Far East. I decided to use Mansur ibn Ilyas's Anatomy of the Human Body for this. It is from 15th century, and we have a miniature artist here who is depicting the human nervous system. If we ask what is the most common product of the art and science collaboration, we basically come to conclude that it is data visualization. It is hard to call data visualization an art on its own, but it is the most common form of art and science partnership. For this, I decided to use W.B. Du Bois' 1899 drawings for the exhibition, The American Negro. He used these drawings, he used these graphs to explain the state of the Black population in the United States, especially in Georgia. These two are in the public domain, and I strongly suggest these are really early graphs that are breathtakingly beautiful. But from the modern era onwards, we start to see some new and more experimental forms of art and science collaborations. The experts tell us that this is because of the emergence of new forms of imaging. And on the left, you see Wilhelm Röntgen's wife's hand, which is the first X-ray ever taken. And you can already see that the intent is not just to create a scale. The hand is obviously it's wearing a ring, and it is the first X-ray ever, and it's a much celebrated image. It ends up quite commonly shared. The contemporary art sciences collaborations go, of course, far beyond image making. Here in this experiment, scientists who are trying to explain the protein structures, they use music mapping, in particular employing the 19th century romantic classical piano music. They argue that the musicality of the melodiousness of the piece becomes enhanced when amino acids properties such as the sequence patterns and variations are translated into analogous musical properties like pitch, note lengths, and chords. The AI, which learns these patterns, then visualize and sound and create more sophisticated versions, which you might not. I'll let you hear a little bit of it. This is very nice experimental electronic music, to be honest. As an artist and an art writer, if you ask me what works the best is when through collaboration and individual effort, both the artist and the scientist lose or erase the distinctions between their fields and create an awe-inspiring work which stands on its own. Here is a good piece in which the artist basically translates a biological phenomena. You have to go into the details and read it. You can actually check the Biobat Art Space website from where this piece comes from. It's called Hidden Futures by Michael Javish, where distinct biological phenomena turned into pigmentation and massive fabric art, which are fantastic to look at. Another good example is Nancy Cohen's Elements of a General Theory of Hydrodynamics. Nancy Cohen, for this series, she studied the general theory of the hydrodynamics, and then she transformed them into these complete massive wall installations. These probably end up more on the art side of the equation than the science equation, but nevertheless, she did collaborate with geologists in order to be able to realize these pieces. And there are also prints and etc. was attached to it. This to attached to the series. This also comes from the Biobat collections. Another piece is, of course, Synchrony, which is a 2013-2021, it's a 7-8 year long project by Lorena Moll, in which she studied the sequencing and synchronicity that is as it is found in nature as a pattern, but she both brings in the tradition of scientific literature and documentation and archival properties, along with the sound and visuals all being mashed together in a very archival dash a abstract, not abstract, but like a conceptual level. Uh, there are numerous sources through which one can explore different examples of art and science collaborations, such as the Nature podcast. I strongly recommend this podcast. And their first episode, which is a 6-part working scientist podcast series, they explore the history of science and art and ask researchers and artists to define what the two terms mean to them before a collaboration, so before they start reflecting on the collaborations and what kind of creative directions the collaborations can take. Thank you so much for joining and listening, and you can text me or inform me about your questions. Looking forward to meeting everyone in person soon.